Hello, wrestling fans. This is Sal LaSardo with this weekend's edition of Rough Cuts. This is a very special Rough Cuts. I have been saying it on Twitter all week that I hope and expect that this would be one of my top 5 of all-time Rough Cuts in 18 plus years of working for Bill, and I hope you will feel that way. This is a very heartfelt Rough Cuts. And I'm also going to answer a very special important question. First of all, before I get to the spotlight, I want to extend my deepest and sincerest recoveries to Bailey, who was injured and is not going to be able to compete in the Money in the Bank pay-per-view that's coming up for the WWE. She does have a torn ACL, MCL, and likely will be out until next year's WrestleMania and beyond. As you know, Carmella will be replacing her in the match on SmackDown on Friday, and Liv Morgan has been added to the Money in the Bank as of this weekend, as I'm doing the video on Saturday the 10th. So, Bailey, we love you. Get better. Thank you for being a role model, the self-professed role model, world champion, tag team champion. You have done it all, and behind the scenes in the locker room, what I've read and hear about you, please get well real soon, real quick, and the WWE Universe cannot wait to have you come back, no matter which persona you take on. For this week's edition of Rough Cuts, the point of this Rough Cuts is going to be the most extreme, hardcore living legend today. And he is from the Devil Cross Ranch in Amarillo, Texas. He is the most dangerous man on the planet, and you definitely would not want to get on his bad side. His name, Terry Funk. That's this edition of my Spotlight this week, Terry Funk. Please be advised, these are my opinions only. They're not affiliated in any wrestling promotion or Bill Apter. Terrible Terry, I like to call him, but he's not terrible. We all mean that in the most sweetest way possible. There has been some reports on the internet about Terry, and I'm not here to talk about what's going on. I did talk to Bill about Terry, and Bill had said he had spoken to Terry recently, and he is doing well. He is in an assisted living facility because he just turned 77 years of age, and nobody beats Father Time. But he is alive and well. Tommy Dreamer tweeted, said that even though he's in an assisted living facility, he's still going to find a way to make money off of it. I believe it. I believe that there may be another match or two, even if he's got to hold it at the facility himself. But we're not here to talk about what's going on. We want to talk about a legacy that Terry has left behind and continues to leave. As long as there's air in his lungs, he's going to find a way to wrestle, and he's going to find a way to make money off it. He even said it himself on Twitter. So, Terry, this is devoted to you, my friend. I hope you enjoy this. Let's go back to the beginning. Terry Funk started working for his dad back in 1965, before I was born. And he had wrestled on December 9, 1965 against a gentleman by the name of Sputnik Monroe. Never heard of him. Before my time, I wasn't even born yet. And then he rose to the ranks teaming with his brother Dory, the Funk Brothers. And they soon became big time money. And the rest was history from there. He wrestled nearly in every promotion imaginable throughout his career. The NWA, the All Japan, WWF, the independent scene, the WCW, ECW, the whole 9 yards. He wrestled, he won wherever he went, tag team championships. He done it all. His most famous, his time in the WWE, WWF, he was a part of WrestleMania 2. He had a long-standing feud with the Junkyard Dog that culminated at WrestleMania 2 in a tag match that was managed by Jimmy Hart. He teamed with Hoss Funk against JYD and Tito Santana, and he was famous for the branding iron. If you remember, he had that famous branding iron where he would use the branding iron on his opponents. He also had a feud with Hogan. He feuded with anybody, but he feuded with Hogan. And yes, he was a part of WrestleMania 2. in Los Angeles towards right before the main event, which were in Hogan and Bundy, as part of that, magnitude of the matches that he had. But he had quite a few matches in the WWE, WWF. He was inducted with his brother Dory in 2009. He is a WWE Hall of Famer. WCW, his most famous match was on Clash of Champions 9, the I Quit match with Ric Flair, where Ric Flair got Terry in the figure four and he said, "My leg is breaking, I quit." He shook Flair's hand, and Gary Hart was his manager at the time, was absolutely irate that he did. And then subsequently, the Gary Hart stable attacked Terry. It went down that year as Dave Meltzer's five-star match. I think myself, Bill, and everybody else will agree it was probably one of the best televised matches for Terry Funk, as ever. Probably one of the best matches in the history of Clash of Champions. An I Quit match of that magnitude at that time was unheard of, and Terry and Rick put on an exhibition of wrestling, selling. How could you go wrong? I mean, this was one of the best matches in the history of the Clash of Champions. He had the war. He was part of War Games, a part of a lot of things during the WCW, NWA times. He wrestled all over. He retired countless number of times, but he couldn't stay retired. He went to ECW back and forth a few times, and he wrestled everybody you can think of, including his protege, Tommy Dreamer. And he defined what we knew all along, what he did in other promotions, which was the living legend of hardcore extreme. I mean, yeah, in the WWE, WWF, he really couldn't, because of the nature of the business at the time. But he's still, with the branding iron, that's hardcore. And he definitely took his matches to an extreme level during that time period. But it really more got exposed on the indie scene, All Japan, and in ECW, when Paul Heyman brought him aboard. He wrestled everybody, Cactus Jack, Tommy, Foley, even him and Foley teamed up. He wrestled everybody. And his skill set, his mindset, the ability to bring out the best in you and his opponents. He was like an earlier, it's like John Moxley, John Moxley, Dean Ambrose, that's in AEW. John Moxley, has that hardcore bit about him. But let me tell you, Terry Funk is really the true original hardcore. Not Tommy Dreamer, not John Moxley, nobody. Terry Funk defined what it takes to be a hardcore legend. And him and his brother, when they team up, you just never know what you were going to get. It was just total chaos. It didn't matter if they were managed by Jimmy Hart, Gary Hart, or whomever. When Terry Funk stepped through the curtain, you were in for a long night, and the fans, they were going to get their money's worth. You got your money's worth. There has never been on record a match that Terry, you can say, what did I pay my money for? You got your money's worth when he stepped through the curtain. And you paid your money, you definitely knew who Terry Funk was, is, and always will be. Just the most extreme, psychotic, hardcore legend of all time. Won numerous awards. He just did things that you couldn't teach. He had it up here. And his ability was just to really call a match in the ring. No one's going to tell him how to call a match. He called it in the ring. It's been documented time and time again. I also want to touch on, he made a movie. He made several movies, but his most famous movie was back in 1989 with Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse. He played Morgan. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. I love Patrick Swayze, and he played a villain. He played the bad guy, and I love him. Love the movie. I've watched it hundreds and hundreds of times. And Terry Funk, you see him in that movie, yeah. It's no different than what you saw in the ring. It really was no different in the ring. What you saw in that movie is what you saw when you got him in a wrestling match. And again, he did other things and other specials and whatever, but he's most famous for Roadhouse as far as the movie. And it's still become a cult following even till this day. And I enjoy watching it, even for the bit that he did. Still absolutely incredible. The number of promotions that he worked for in the scene, House of Hardcore with Tommy Dreamer, he just went out there and, it didn't matter. If he could make a buck, he was going to make a buck. And if he could put people in the seats, he was going to. That's why he kept coming out of retirement. He retired, he came out, retired, he came out. Why? Because he just loved the business. Even at 77 years old, he loves the business and he loves the fans. He loves to aggravate you, make you hate him, make you love him, but he loves to entertain you. And he's 77. He's still trying to do it. And if he can, he will. Something else that I want to applaud Terry about, he was married to Valerie Weaver. Over 54 years of marriage. She passed away in 2019, God rest her soul. She was the glue behind Terry Funk. She managed the ranch. They had a ranch. They managed it. They have two incredible daughters, Stacy and Brandy. And how many performers could you say in this day and age that been married over nearly 50 plus years, 55 years of marriage, and she stood by him through thick and thin. Husband, father, performer, legend, Hall of Fame, extreme, actor, so many adjectives to describe Terry. And the one behind it, his wife Valerie, through thick and thin, had an incredible marriage, an incredible passion, a love. She did appear with him a few times on television in WCW in various promotions. When she did, very little, but she did. And very close to his brother Dory. They had a school, and with Dory and the Funk brothers, and Dory ran a school. They carried on the Funk legacy that his father, Dory Sr., carried on when they started in the South, and they made all this money. And again, behind it was his wife. And his wife was really the most instrumental, vital part of the success of Terry Funk. And it's unfortunate she's not here. Yes, he's had some health issues the last few years, as we all do when we get older, especially at that age. And I'm sure he misses her, but he's still persevering. He's not giving up. He's not a quitter. You'll never hear him say, I quit, for real, outside the camera. In life, he is not a quitter. He's a fighter. And he loves this business. He loves the fans. And we owe him the deepest debt of gratitude. And thank you. Terry, you are the most incredible performer that I have ever witnessed and watched growing up. And to watch you be a part of various promotions, put on match after match that were classics, that will live forever. You defined and created the legacy for the Dean Ambrose, John Moxley's, Kenny Omega's, the Kevin Owens, Brock Lesnar's, Roman Reigns, John Cena's, the whole 9 yards, all these guys, AJ Styles, Tommy Dreamer. I mean, the list goes on. You defined what it takes to be a legend, a hardcore, a performer, storyteller, and an absolute amazing human being. I never met you, but from what I've spoken to Bill, not going to ruin it, but he's truly one of a kind. Take my word for it. He is one of a kind. And Terry, I hope you stay well, safe. I'm looking forward to seeing what you're going to do next, as I know it's going to make money. Everything you've ever done has made money. Keep up doing what you're doing. We are with you. We love you and support you. And thank you for being Terry Funk. I want to answer a question from PR Recruiting emailed me. How did you meet Bill Apter? And what are your thoughts on Bill, your employer, because you never really mentioned him? I met Bill back in 1988, I believe it was. It was the only time I ever had ringside seats to a wrestling event. The main event was George the Animal Steel against the most dangerous man on the planet at the time, Danny Davis. It was in a 15-foot high steel cage, the actual fence. I sat ringside. It was the only time I was at ringside. I had the post. Next to me was Bill Apter, and he was at the time part of Pro Wrestling Illustrated, as you know. And we just started talking. Grew a great appreciation for it, for the business, of how hard that these men and women sacrifice and work. I had a big fascination with Andy Kaufman. I remember we talked about Andy a little bit, which spawned several articles over the years. And he told me about how, he knew Andy, and he introduced Andy to Jerry, and the rest was history. I will do a rough cut on a video on Andy for all of you that have not seen it on onewrestling.com. I will do a rough cut video on Andy at some point. As for over the years, after the match, I didn't see Bill or talk to Bill. I picked up the magazines with him. We reconnected in 2003 when Bob Ryder and Bill started onewrestling.com. And I started commenting. And I told Bill when I emailed, remember I met you at the Meadowlands, this and that. And he said, how would you like to do rough cuts? Be rough in a cut above the rest. Be like the Howard Cosell of wrestling reporting. Just don't bury anybody, but speak from your heart and tell it like it is. And 18 and a half years later, I'm still doing it, and now I'm doing weekly videos. Bill Apter has been to me a friend, an employer, a confidant. I tell you this, the fans, each and every week I've done these videos and articles for the last 18 and a half years. I have never taken one dime from Bill Apter. Not one. I don't do it for the money. Never. He's offered. I do it because I want to reach an audience, and I want to be able to share my thoughts and views on professional wrestling unlike no other. And as long as you keep viewing, keep commenting, keep liking, I will continue to do it, because I like to believe that I bring a element to each and every one of these videos, and I owe Bill Apter the deepest debt of gratitude that I could never pay him back. I should be paying him, not the other way around. When my dog died 2 years ago, I was in the middle of doing the Andy Kaufman article for him to take to Chicago. Bill Apter called me. He spent about 10, 15 minutes on the phone with me, and I thanked him for the call. Anytime that there was an issue, I was in the hospital, had biopsy recently, I had endoscopies done. Bill Apter called me. I posted on Twitter, I messaged him. He didn't have to message me back. He picked up the phone and called me. He makes me feel very special as a friend. I only met him in person once, but I've talked to him on the phone numerous occasions and emailed each other back and forth and talked to him on Twitter all the time. And the one thing he says, don't ever stop doing rough cuts. And as long as you, the fans, feel that way, I will continue to do them each and every week. He is one of the most kindest, dearest, special, amazing human beings alive today. It's a travesty that the WWE has never put Bill Apter in the Hall of Fame. And I've done everything I could. I've been doing everything I could to write him countless numbers of times, tweeted thousands of times to get him inducted because he deserves it. He earned it. You don't realize how special a man is until you get to know him, and he truly is just one of a kind. And as a friend for the past 35 years, I am so honored each and every week to do these videos for you, for him, and the way that he expects me to do them for you, the fans. So PR recruiting, I met him at a steel cage match at a house show at the Meadowlands, non-televised, and back in 1987, 88, I think it was 88 if I'm not mistaken. And he's been a friend ever since, and he will be a friend forever. And I can't thank him enough for what he has given to me as a blessing to bring this to you each and every week. And more importantly, what he believes in me by not giving up, especially when the chips are down, to get a video up for the fans. And that's why I do what I do. I would never take a dime from Bill Apter. All I need to know is to see the likes, the comments, and the views each and every week. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your neighbors to tune into my videos. Like them, tweet me, email me at salnbandit42@gmail.com. Look me up on Twitter, and I'll answer any and all your questions. And as long as you keep supporting it, I'll keep doing it. And I mean that. And Bill, thank you. I love you. You're my friend. You always will be my friend. And I will continue to deliver the best of the best each and every week for each and every one of you. And again, Terry, God bless you. I know you're going to make money still, no matter where you are. You are a legend, and keep up doing what you're doing, because you are simply one of the greatest performers of all time. And there would not be wrestling of what it is today or even what ECW became, and has that cult following that it does without you. And I'll tell you this, you brought out the best in Ric Flair in that I Quit match. I've never seen Ric Flair look any better in that Clash of Champions line. And Ric Flair's had feuds among feuds with Sting and Steamboat, but you brought out the best. You brought out the best in Ric Flair. Nobody brought out Ric Flair the way you did. And that match has got to be one of the greatest of all time. So for this edition of Rough Cuts at the 21-minute mark, may all your matches be a main event. Bailey, get well. We want to see you soon. Bill, thank you. I will continue to do what I do best. And Terry, stay well, my friend. We're with you. We're pulling for you. We support you. We love you. Until next week, again, one more time, may all of your matches be a main event. Tune in, like, comment, and the videos will be coming each and every week. See you next week for Money in the Bank.